Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Lisa Sulsenti. Welcome to my podcast. And today we are going to get into the last phase of my functional medicine practice, which is stage 3. And we are supporting and repairing systems of the body. Anything that has an imbalance or deficiency, or possibly, I call it the chemical equation that's broken and it's just not working properly. And I'll get a little bit more into that. Before we begin, make sure you've listened to part 1 and part 2 so you can understand those stages and the fact that stage 1, and you have to start with stage 1, because stage 1 to me is one of the most important phases. Now some people, they don't need to go further. Stage 1 is sometimes people do that. I have plenty of patients that do stage 1. They get the gut working properly, they get the liver working properly, and the body just picks it up from there. And that's really, really important. That's why I'm a leaky gut expert. That's why my whole program focuses on getting the gut to heal, getting the gut to work properly. So sometimes if you just get that, the body will pick up and start eliminating and detoxifying correctly, which is stage 2. So sometimes stage 2 just kicks in and stage 3 kicks in on its own. And that's what's beautiful about functional medicine. That's where functional medicine is different from conventional. We believe the body can heal itself. We believe the body can balance itself. And we do feel the body can live synergistically with some of these opportunistic things. So let's say you have high heavy metals, but you repaired your gut and you got your liver working properly. Now you might not need to do anything. The body might start clearing these. Isn't that amazing? So a lot of times you really just need to do stage 1. For some people, it doesn't. You need a little bit more, and then you need to move to stage 2. So even parasites, you're exposed to these things all the time. Some of them live synergistically with you. Same with opportunistic things. Sometimes C. diff occurs from within. I've seen that happen. Because you have commensal bacteria that are families like Streptococcus and E. coli and things like that. And so when I sometimes see just a really, really big overgrowth of something going on, that once we start repairing the gut, the body balances it out. I'm going to say that again. The body just has this amazing ability to fix itself. So sometimes we don't need to get all in there. And what I try to do in my functional practice, and I want to say this because once I start stage 3, I really want you to understand this. I really try not to do what medicine does. I'm really not trying to treat your symptoms. I don't want to give you all these supplements and all these herbs or all these things that aren't pharmaceuticals to treat the symptoms, because I'm kind of doing the same thing, right? And it's a little different because we are also not trying to turn things off, where pharmaceuticals are specifically about like turning something off. Somebody said to me about down regulating. I don't even know if I'd call it down regulating, because a lot of pharmaceuticals literally will shut an enzyme off. So the equation doesn't happen. We're functional. We can down regulate something where we're like, okay, that equation's happening too much. We need to calm it down. We're not shutting it down. And that's what down regulation means. In my opinion, that's how I see it. Very gray area, of course, but getting back to functional, the whole purpose of the way I try to approach functional medicine is that the body can balance itself. It can fix itself. So sometimes when you just do stage 1, a lot of these opportunistic things calm down. A lot of these imbalances in neurotransmitters, they fix themselves. Sometimes you see the thyroid completely, the thyroid gets fixed, because the thyroid really isn't the problem, it's the liver. So when you're fixing the liver and you're fixing the gut, you see a lot of diseases and symptoms and diagnoses or whatever they gave you miraculously clear up. And so that's what's really amazing and powerful about stage 1, which is why I always say if you haven't started there, that's where you go. And then you want to move into, all right, is there an opportunistic thing, stage 2, where you're like, all right, do we need to detoxify something? Do we need to help the patient get rid of this? And so we discuss that with the patient. Is there a parasite that we need help removing? Is the yeast just so overgrowing that we just need to mow it down a little bit? So it's a support stage as well, where you're, I don't like the idea that you're just removing things. You're just, treating them, because again, that's more medicinal. So, can we support the detoxification system in the body and help speed this along or help the body remove these things? So that's what stage 2 is looking at detoxifying and helping the body, balance out biofilms, bacteria, viruses, opportunistic things, parasites, heavy metals, molds, limes. I'm trying to think what else. There's other things, right? There's just some weird things. So that is that. And then stage 3 is saying, and not everybody needs this stage, honestly. But I get some crazy, we get some crazy cases. I was talking about a woman recently. She walked into the practice and she gained a lot of weight, like quickly. Like I see her all the time. And her face was super round. Her neck was thick. She was having growing hair. She told me she's exhausted. And I went through a little bit of that with Hashimoto's. So the first thing I was thinking, does she have Hashimoto's? Is there a thyroid problem? And the other thing that she looked like was something called Cushing's, which is your adrenals are kicking out way too much cortisol. So you're thinking that, and then you're like, well, why? What's going on? What does she have, and why? So now stage 3 is like, okay, I'm actually not at stage 3 with her. I'm at stage 1 with her. I took her right to stage 1 because I have to ask myself why. And you have to reverse engineer yourself and go all the way back to the beginning and get her gut wall working properly. Find out what her food sensitivities are. Check to see what her gut imbalance is, her gut print, I call it. You can definitely go back to my other podcasts about stage 1 and all my leaky gut. There's all these great podcasts that teach you about leaky gut. And then I want to get the gut working properly. I want the gut microbiome super strong. And if there's any opportunistic things, get them out. Help the body get rid of and detoxify. So she's in stage 1 with me right now, and possibly stage 2. But I did tell you that we didn't find anything. She did test with me and the medical doctor, and we looked for all these autoimmune things, all these opportunistic things, that she just didn't have anything. So we're on stage 1 with her, and then I have to look at stage 3 here because we've done stage 2 and there's nothing there. Stage 1 we're on, we've been working on that, and so I have to now look at stage 3 with her, this is the last conversation I just had with her. So what are we talking about? So you have to look at adrenals, you have to look at thyroid, I have to look at ovaries. Like, what's going on here? Is she PCOS, right? She's young. So, like, what is this? What's going on? Now, I know these are all diagnoses, and we don't go and we want to treat all her symptoms. Like, what am I doing? Run around, treat symptoms here? It's just not going to be. And I'm co-caring with MDs. I keep sending her to the MDs. They tell her she's fine, and she sends her back to me. And I know she's not fine. So this is just a really, really interesting case. And so this is where we're in stage 3, where we're going to have to start looking at how can I support and help the body repair a system in the body that's not working properly. And this is a complicated stage. Not everybody has to do this stage. But I always tell people there's more. I have some people that just drop off after they do the leaky gut, and they're like, and they're complaining that there's still some more symptoms, but they don't want to go further. And I'm like, okay, but there's more here. Once you get the gut working properly, and that can take time. I mean, you take years and years and years and years, if not half your life, ruining your gut. So you have to get this time. But then you also have to look at some other systems. So in this case, when we tested her, I can't remember. I'm trying to think. I think she was on thyroid medication. So that was containing the thyroid. There's definitely an issue with the thyroid. There's some reason the body's not producing enough thyroid hormone. So that was a red flag. The medication is doing it for her. So you can listen to my thyroid. I have an amazing thyroid series. I walk you through it so in depth. And when you take thyroid medicine, it's not a bad thing. You need it. But in the functional medicine world, what you're doing is you're giving the body the T3 or the T4, and then the body doesn't do it. So that's a gray area there, and trying to get the body to support the body and making its own thyroid hormone. Can you fix that? Can you fix that system? Where is it broken? Is it missing iodine? Is it missing, selenium, zinc? Is it missing glutathione? Is it missing, trying to think, selenium, zinc, magnesium, the B vitamins, B2, B3, like what's going on there? So that overlaps with stage 1. You look at you want to test hormones with her. So I did. She was in ovarian failure, and that's really what I think this is. Her cortisol was all over the place. So she had low, then high, then normal. So it never really, it depends on the time that we draw. So we know there's adrenal dysfunction. And she's super stressed out. She has some life events going on that's really stressing her out. So I guess the question would be, when you're thinking about supporting or repairing these systems of the body, you have to say to yourself, well, is the stress causing the ovarian failure? Is the ovarian failure being caused from that? No estrogen, no progesterone, no testosterone. She has no hormones. They're just dead, which also would cause the hair on the face and some of these problems. It definitely would throw off your thyroid. So these three things are connected for her, and they're definitely dysfunctioning. They're not working properly. There is an imbalance. There are deficiencies. That's where what I want to do with her is this micronutrient test, which is super important. So this is different. And then let's talk about, you might be like, well, that doesn't relate to me. I don't even get that. Yeah, but what's going on with you? I have RA patients here. I have, this is where you're looking outside the gut and what diagnosis do you have that's not, digestive, exactly. It's not like gastritis or diverticulitis, right? I talked to you in the other podcast about having a office with kids with autism spectrum disorders and all that stuff. So there's also anxiety just in general. I have a lot of young patients with anxiety. There's infertility. I'm trying to think, there's fibromyalgia. Again, a ton of thyroid issues, chronic fatigue syndrome. So it goes on and on. But so if we talked about anxiety, or if we talked about the kids with autism and the ASD, you're looking at neurological imbalance. So another system here is to say, well, do we test their neurotransmitters? Do we see why they might have an imbalance in their neurotransmitters? Do we test serotonin, 5-HTP, epinephrine, norepinephrine, GABA? Do we test melatonin? Do we test, what's the other one? GABA, dopamine. I think it was dopamine. So do we look at all these? And if I ever test your neurotransmitters, I am testing your micronutrients, and I'm getting, because they are the players. So the micronutrients are needed in order for you to make the neurotransmitters. So for example, if you're trying to make serotonin, you got to look at your vitamins. You got to look at your minerals. And if you're missing any of those, if you're deficient in some of the B's or D or iron or any of those, you're not going to make it. So that could be why the child's imbalances. That could be why they're off neurologically. It's be that fact that they're deficient in vitamins. And then you'll have to take another step back and say to yourself, well, why are they deficient in vitamins? Are they not eating a lot of things? Because these kids could be picky eaters, right? Do they not eat healthy? Because the American kids today they eat crap. Are they eating all these processed foods? Or if they're eating super healthy, or because this really goes with the kids not eating healthy food too, what is their gut doing? Do they have a leaky gut? Do they have opportunistic things in the gut? Do they have problems with the gut? So that's why stage 1 is so important before you even get to this phase. If you set it up properly, it all works beautifully. So, you're looking at the brain, right? You're looking at neurotransmitters. You're looking at the leaky gut. You're looking at the micronutrients. So I'm just trying to think of different areas of the bodies. We have infertility, so we're going to ovaries. We're going to PCOS, right? A PCOS is also pre-diabetic, thyroid, and ovaries. So we're looking at all the hormones, right? We have the adrenals. You guys get this idea that this is where you want to help support the body to repair any of these systems that are dysfunctioning. This really relies on stage 1 and stage 2 because they could be causing some issues here. And what I really want to, focus on as we go forward is that the immune system is in the gut. It's 80% of our immune system is in our gut. So a lot of this is imbalances and dysfunctions in systems. So when we want to improve things, we really want to get to the gut wall, and that's why I am a leaky expert, and my career has been, dedicated to this. And I wanted to talk about these 3 stages today because for 2 reasons. One was when you're on social media or you're Googling how to get help, or you're reading books, because I'm a big book person. I'm not really a big social media. I don't really listen to a lot on internet, but I will buy books. But however you do it, it's confusing for sure. And I think a lot of it comes from our love, our intent. If we want to, we want to get ourselves healthy, right? That's a great intent. If we want to help our kids get healthy, it's a great intent. But it's overwhelming and it's confusing. And I've been on social media where I'm like, oh my gosh, they're missing this one step. Like say they're telling you, oh, your child's not behaving because of parasites. Well, here's the thing. Not everybody I test has parasites. It isn't as common as they make you seem. Like I test these things, and my company tests a lot. And we test blood, we test stool, and it's not coming up as often as you think. Now, do parasites maybe live below the level we test? Do they live synergistically? But this goes back to what I talked about in the last 2 series, is that you can have 2 children and one child's totally functioning great and the other child's suffering. And so you have to say what's going on in that body of the child that's suffering, the child that's not healthy. Why is they're exposed to the same things, they live in the same environment, typically eat the same food, have very similar microbiomes. If they've both been vaccinated, they've probably been both vaccinated, on the same schedule. So, they've been exposed to usually most things. The sicker kid may have had more meds or more problems because they're sicker. But you have to ask yourself, why is the sick child? Why does their immune system, why does their body not well? What's going on? What's deficient? What's imbalanced? What's dysfunction? What's broken? What's not working? The child's not broken, but what chemistry isn't happening? What equation's not? What's needed? What's deficient in this child, right? And so that's what I want people to know, because I'm telling you, once you figure this out, that body is capable of repairing itself, and it is capable of eliminating things. So if you're, you know what I mean? Like if the child's exposed to parasites, you want to get the child's body to be able to deal with that. We want to get the child's body to be able to eliminate heavy metals, because his brother's is, yours is. I've tested families and I'm just like, oh, mold's a little bit tricky. I feel like with black mold, when I test one, they all might have it because they're all living in the same environment. But again, that's not always the case. And there's research on this where you could have 4 people living in the house and one is really, really sick. And that one we test and we see the mold, and then we go, you need to go in your house, there's black mold there. They find it, but the other 3 were fine. So again, it's the body's ability to handle the opportunistic thing. And that's what's key. Or that's why I wanted to have this talk, because I have been, for some reason, this conversation keeps coming up with my patients, and when I find myself explaining the same thing over and over again and having the same question, I'm like, I got to do a podcast. So that's what I'm doing, this podcast today. And I don't take it like, oh, this question came up again. I just think, wow, this question keeps coming up again, because it's God's way of telling me, you need to address this. You need to explain this. You need to educate better on this. So this is why I did the series, and I broke it into 3 parts of the 3 stages of how I approach functional medicine. And I'm hoping that you can take on this thinking when you're out there in the world and you're getting bombarded with all this stuff. And it's not that it's bad stuff. I'm telling you, I look at some of these supplements you guys send me. I get a lot of emails, by the way. And what about this? What do you think of this? What do you think? Or text. What do you think of this, Dr. Luce? What do you think of this? And it's overwhelming for me sometimes, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, am I not teaching them correctly? And then I realize you're out there in the world, and you're getting bombarded by so many of these things. And again, it's not that some of these supplements are bad, but I'm like, oh my gosh, they're not even going in the right order. They're just like, should I be clearing my son of parasites? Maybe that's it. Or maybe should I be taking glutathione because my thyroid's not working, and it all is, they're all great questions, and they all come from such a great place. But what I wanted the series to do for you is to try to calm it down and have you think of 3 phases. The first one is to tackle the gut problems. Get that gut working properly. Get that liver working properly. And that has 3 steps within itself. That is to reveal any of the causes of the leaky gut. So we're looking at food sensitivities. We're looking at, yes, opportunistic pathogenic things in the gut like parasites. Yes. We're looking at candida and yeast and bacteria overgrowths and all that nasty stuff. Yes. We can include heavy metals in there if we want. And you're also got to look at the gut microbiome and look at the deficiencies of the commensal bacteria and get the right probiotic. That's literally the first stage. Please do that before you jump into all this other noise, because it's not that the other noise they're not correct. I mean, sometimes they're missing a step and I want to hit myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're never going to get rid of the parasites because they're missing this one last step. But you can go crazy. And I see it with my patients and all the questions. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. So do that first step. And if you've done that first step and there's still issues and there's still symptoms and there's still things going on, then you want to do step 2. That's when you want to, start detoxifying. The problem with the detoxification phase is the fact that you really should test for these opportunistic things, or what the internet loves to call co-infections, and then find out which one you have, and then do the protocol for that and make sure it's the right protocol, because you're just really going to go round and round. So parasites all over the internet, heavy metals all over the internet. I get it. Can honestly tell you it's not as common as you think. The heavy metals actually is with some of the kids that have the severe autism. That is actually true. That one's a problem. Parasites, not so much. I do find them. But what I do find in a lot of the kids with autism is yeast overgrowth. That's a big thing. And then also they all have, and it's not consistent. I can't say they're all the same. Some kids have parasites, not as common as you think though. Some kids have the yeast overgrowth, more common than you think though. And then they have these weird bacteria, and like I said, they're not all the same. Somebody will have H. pylori, some people will have this K pneumonia one, somebody will have E. coli, somebody will have salmonella, like somebody will have and then when I look at their microbiome, some are high in strep, some are high in staph, some are high in the Clostridium family, like some are high, it's just not consistent where I can say to you, oh, you have these symptoms, it's this protocol. That's why testing for opportunistic and co-infection things is really important. And testing the gut microbiome is super important, because then you can say, okay, this is what's going on, and I can create the protocol based on that. It's not cookie cutter with this. And that's why when you go online, it's so difficult, because it's just not cookie cutter. Now, some of the testing can get expensive. So somebody will say to me, well, what if I just do a parasite and cleanse just in case? All right, that's not a bad thing. But one, you have to set up stage 1 first. And you've got to make sure the liver and the gut work properly before doing that. And 2, you have to make sure you do the parasite protocol correctly. And again, I would say 90% of the internet is missing 1 or 2 steps that I do that you need. And stage 3 is that you got to make sure that you match the right probiotic to your gut imbalance so you can restore that gut. See, here's the thing, and this is the part I want to leave you with stage 2 and stage 3. But I want to leave you with this idea, and it affects you moving forward, that if the gut microbiome is not healthy, the gut microbiome, I have plenty of podcasts on it. It is the terrain of the gut. It's all the good bacteria in the gut, and it needs to be robust. I always compare the gut microbiome to the soil in a garden. If the soil is sick, if it's not balanced correctly, if you don't have the right nutrients in the soil, you won't get a good garden. Same idea with your gut terrain, your gut microbiome. If it's not balanced, if it's not robust, you aren't going to be able to get rid of the opportunistic infections, of these co-infections, whatever they call them. You're not going to be able to really overcome them. You might remove them temporarily, you might cut it back, but they'll come back. And that's what I want you to understand. They're going to come back. I'll say it again. They're going to come back. I see it all the time. Or something else is going to brew. So I have removed parasites, and then all of a sudden someone has a candida problem when we retest. Because that was there, but the parasites was overtaking it. You remove the parasites, and now you have the yeast problem. You've got to rebuild the microbiome and the immune system and the gut wall function for all of this stuff to just kind of go away, because the body can fix itself. It'll balance itself out. And if you're looking at the systems of the body, that's also really important. The gut microbiome and the gut wall function and the immune system has to be really working well for the body to repair, let's say, the thyroid problem, if the autoimmune problem, the RA problem, the ovary issue, all these things we talked about. And in infertility, I will never treat a person in infertility if I don't clear out the gut. Because once we do that, I can't tell you, I've got like 5 babies being born this year. It's so excited. These girls that came to me that couldn't get pregnant. And I just can't wait. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, the body can do this. The body can do it. You have a family living in a house with mold and only one person has the mold, right? You have 2 kids and one kid's really struggling, the other person's not. Think about this. The body can clear these things and repair these things and fix these things. Our job is to support the systems, support the detoxification system, support the endocrine system, support your glands, support your organs, support your immune system. That's what we do in stage 3 if we feel like it just needs a little more help. But you can't do stage 2 and stage 3 without stage 1. And that's what I wanted to answer. So I hope that helps you guys. I know I've been getting that question a lot, and I hope this just really, really clarified a few things on it. I'm working really, really hard on getting my message better, being clear more in my education, but I know that part of it is going out in the world and just with our social media and all the information coming in. And we really, really just, again, we come from love and want to get ourselves better, get our family better, get our friends better. I feel like that about you. I'm very, very passionate. You could ask my family how much time I spend on trying to help you get better. That's my passion. It's just helping other people. So I get it. It's overwhelming. But honestly, these are the 3 stages and they're super important. And I hope that helped you. Again, not meant to replace your medical care or cure anything, but definitely to help guide you. See you at the next podcast. You can always contact me for more information. Thank you. Bye.